The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Thank you for tuning in, and welcome back to the Songwriter Show. I'm your host, Sarantos. I'm a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are so important to me, and that's why I'm thrilled to host this show. I believe that every song is a story. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on number one ranked W4CY Radio, with listeners in all 206 countries in the world and every state in the United States. The station is also licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange, with partnerships throughout the music industry, including iHeartRadio, with exposure to over 300 million listeners.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Tonight's first guest is Tim Soucy. Tim is an original artist who enjoys many styles of music and has been influenced by many different musicians. He went solo in August 2012 and released several singles and 5 albums to date. He's currently working on album number 6. His music can be purchased worldwide on iTunes, Amazon, CD Baby, and every other streaming service known in existence. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We're so happy to have you. How's your night going?
So far, pretty good.
All right. So you have a very interesting story. Tell me a little bit about when you started playing.
Well, when I first started playing music, I was probably about 15 years old. And it actually started with my voice first. I was a singer before anything. And me and my brother were really kind of hooked on the Beatles. Lennon and McCartney was a big influence on us. And we basically used to play with our tennis rackets in the mirror, pretending we were John and Paul. But soon after that, we got our first guitars, and we were off and running. And we started right out of the gates just writing our own music because that's what felt the best for my brother and I. And we never looked back. We've been writing ever since.
Sure, that sounds great. So did you see them on the Ed Sullivan Show, or did you just, what was your direct influence from there?
My first memories of the Beatles were actually the cartoons, probably in the late 60s, the Beatles cartoons. And then soon after that, probably in the late 60s, my uncles gave us some Beatle albums. And me and my brothers just played those until they wore out.
Yeah. I wonder how many people the Beatles have influenced like yourself. It's
amazing.
Such a common story I hear even from big artists that were just like, I was reading Bruce Springsteen's biography, and he talks about, how he fell in love with the Beatles and how he was trying to get their album, and he listened to it, over and over. But it's amazing.
No doubt. They kind of taught me and my brother that we could do the same thing. And, and that's what we took on right out of the gates. And we never really were into doing cover tunes. We pretty much wrote our own songs right off the bat. And it's just been getting better and better over the years.
That's wonderful. So do you play any other instruments?
I play all the instruments, actually. I first learned drums back in junior high school. Me and my brother took drum lessons. And I had an infatuation. I kept seeing this, one of my friends in the other booth, and he was playing the electric guitar, doing all this really cool stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's really what I wanted to do, was play guitar. So after I learned drums, I picked up the guitar and started playing that. And soon after that, I played bass for about a year and a half. And I got a keyboard back in the 80s, and I've been playing that as well. So I basically taught myself all the instruments. I played sax and trumpet in school as well. And I'm not afraid to take on any of the instruments. And all my songs, I pretty much do everything myself.
That's great to hear. And I think with your experience as a drummer, you must be in the pocket. I mean, your timing must be impeccable, which I think probably gives you a huge advantage, not just in singing, but with your guitar work and some of the other stuff you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. I actually create a lot of stuff just around a simple drum beat, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Starts with that, and I got this melody in my head, and I just start going with it, and the pen comes out, I start writing, I figure out the chords. Sometimes the song comes out in 10 minutes. Sometimes it has to sit on my skin for weeks and weeks or months until it finally comes out. And I don't fight it, really. I just kind of let it happen naturally. And some of my best stuff happens just by ad-libbing.
Yeah, absolutely. So in your songwriting, is there a certain, you just kind of described your process, but is there a certain instrument that takes the lead that the majority of the time you say, I got to start with the drum track, or I got to get the chords on the guitar? Or what instrument
it's the chords on the guitar mostly.
Okay.
You know, I'll take that drum beat and then I'll refine my chords and come up with the exact chords I'm looking for. And I don't always focus on doing the structure of the song like everyone else has in the past, you know, the 4s and the 2s and all that stuff. I kind of use some odd numbers. I'm using the 3s and the 7s and the 5s and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so my music comes out a little more natural sounding sometimes, and I like it to not sound forced at all, but more natural.
Yeah. How do you balance your songwriting with other obligations, such as, you know, in your personal life, your significant other, kids, job? How do you balance it?
Well, I actually use all that stuff as a huge influence. Everything that happens in my life from a day-to-day basis, so whether it's a relationship thing with my wife or something with my children, I mean, there's all my inspiration for my writing right there. And
sure.
And those feelings are genuine. And friendships, I have a lot of close friendships. Ever since high school, I still pretty much hang around with the same people that I've always hung around with. So, you know, 30, 40-year friendships to some of my folks, some of my friends is just pretty incredible. And that's a big inspiration as well. Yeah.
Loyalty is a rare thing nowadays, my friend. So I think what you're doing is wonderful. Have you ever written any inflammatory songs about a friend?
Indeed.
So tell us about that.
I remember, you know, way back in the day when I first started writing, you know, growing up in my family's house, you know, all those feelings would come right to the surface, and, you know, even, you know, my dad scolding me or whatever would turn into a writing about how angered I was about him scolding me for whatever purpose he did at the time. But, you know, I've written some stuff about my parents. I've written some inflammatory stuff about some friends. A lot of times I use that as a therapy as well. If I've had a bad situation or something, I find that it is just as easy to write it down and get it out. That way I don't have to burden myself with it. That's why writing has always been a source of relief for me.
Yeah, it's cathartic. No, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I'd rather not hold it all in. It's easier for me to write it down, and then I can come back and read it, and I have an easier time dealing with it sometimes that way.
Sure. When have you been the most satisfied in your life as a songwriter?
Right now, actually.
Okay.
I'm more satisfied now than I've ever been, because I feel I'm doing some of my best work that I've ever done now. I've really learned how to use my Pro Tools program and all that. I went to engineering school as a kid. I went to the Audio Workshop School of Sound for a couple of years, and I learned 24-track recording. And that's kind of been my foundation all along as well. I know how to do it in the studio. I know what all the buttons do, and I know how to use them. I know how to use a mic, and I have my home studio set up. And basically, it's coming full circle now, where I am able to use my studio the way I'm actually hearing it in my head. So a lot of my music's coming out better now than it has just a few short years ago.
Okay. What's the coolest road trip you've ever been on?
The coolest road trip, well, probably happened several years ago. My buddy and I went skiing up at Jay Peak, Vermont. And, of course, wherever we go, we bring the guitars with us.
Of course.
And you just got to.
Yeah.
And it was a snowy night up in Jay Peak, and there was a small town, and that's where our hotel room was. And it just started snowing, and we had no guitar straps, so we used the cords. We actually made our cords out of the telephone cord. So we each made a cord, and we walked around in the street in the small town near Jay Peak, Vermont, with the snow falling on us, playing our folks, and it was just awesome. And some people started opening the windows on Main Street, saying, "What the heck's going on out there?" Mm-hmm. And there was a little club in town right on Main Street, a little pool bar, I guess you could call it. And the bar was pretty busy. So me and my friend Dave walked to the bar with our folk guitars. We walked into the bar. These people just all looked at us. They assumed we were somebody. Well, they started shouting at us right away, "Play something, play this, play that, whatever." And, I held my hands up and I said, "Hold on, everybody." And the owner shut off the music at the bar. And he said, I said, "Hold on." I said, "We're not going to play any requests tonight." I said, "We're going to ad lib." And I said, "We're going to start playing." And I picked the loudest guy out at the bar. And I said, "You're going to start the tune." And we just started jamming, and we held this audience, and it was one of the greatest spontaneous road trips that I've had. Everyone loved it. We had the greatest time, and everything was off the cuff.
Yeah. Are you generally a spontaneous person or an organized, meticulous,
I'm spontaneous.
Okay.
I'm mostly spontaneous, yeah.
Okay. Any hidden talents you have we should know about?
Hidden talents, huh? Well, I don't know about hidden talents. I was a single-parent dad twice in my life. And
okay.
I guess kind of a hidden talent that I have is, sensitivity to children and feelings. I've always kind of been like a psychologist as well. I've studied a lot of psychology, so I've been studying people since I was about 15 as well. And, I guess, I don't know if that's such a hidden talent, but...
yeah, it's all right. It's a cool talent.
I could do everything, put it that way. And I have done everything, from raising my kids to doing the cooking and cleaning and whatever it takes.
Okay.
And that's been an inspiration in my life, too, and in my writing.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about something that you don't like to do. It's got to be something.
Something that I don't like to do. I don't know. There's not many things I don't like to do. I've always been willing to try something different here and there.
Anything that sticks out in your mind?
Not really.
Okay. One of the questions I like to ask everybody who's on the show, because I really want to try to educate other songwriters or fans, what's the biggest scam that's happened to you? And tell us about it so you can warn us so none of us go through it too.
Well, some of the biggest scams, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, everyone wants to be an agent. Everyone wants to advertise your music for you for a fee, of course,
Of course, yeah.
And I found that it's just as easy to build your own audience once you understand exactly how social media works. And whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, I think you can build those audiences without having to pay someone to do it. It just depends on what it is you're doing. The worst scam that ever happened to me was probably I sent one of my songs out back around 1992 I sent one of my songs to a record company, and they accepted the song, and they said that it was going to be performed by a top grade singer, and and they wanted me to pay some enormous amount of money so I could have my song put on this album. And it just, I couldn't justify it, nor could I afford it back then. And I pulled the plug on it. So I never knew if they actually used my song without my permission or not.
Yeah.
But I'm sure lots have.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, though. I've never really been in it for the money. I've always been in it for the love of music.
Sure.
It was never about making money. It was never about becoming famous. It was always just about making the best music I could and entertaining people with that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Who's your role model? If you could pick one person, who would it be?
Role model? And as far as musicians?
Anyone. Musician, non-musician.
That's interesting. Role models.
Someone who inspires you in some way that on a daily basis.
Yeah, probably a guy like Steve Lukather. I don't know if you've heard of Steve Lukather, but
who's what does he do, or who is he?
He's a session guitar player. He's played on. Well, I'm sure you have heard him. He's played on thousands of albums. He's actually the guitar player for Toto.
Oh wow! Yeah. Okay.
And he's been really a huge inspiration. Him and Larry Carlton, also another guitar player. One basically plays clean and one basically plays mean. And and my teachers, when I grew up, one played clean, one played mean. I learned to love both styles. So I incorporated that in my style. I never wanted to be one-dimensional.
Sure.
And so both those guys have been a huge inspiration on me. You know, Steve Lukather, mostly because of his accomplishments and him just basically keeping his nose to the grindstone and getting better and better and better and better and better as a musician. And that's one of the things that's always inspired me as well. That's always what I've wanted to do, and I kind of look up to him as sort of a peer, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I aspire to be, the best session musician and the best musician that I could be.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about where listeners can find more information about you and where can they purchase your music?
Well, my music is available on several different platforms, including iTunes or Spotify, Tidal, any of those. The links that I can be reached at, I'm actually at Sousman on Twitter. That's SOUSEMAN. And that's my Twitter. Sousman1 on YouTube. You can find my videos. The personal station that I like to use as far as my representation for my music, and you can actually listen to my music free there, is reverbnation.com/Tim Soucy. And that is a free station.
Okay, so we're going to tell us about 30 seconds what we should know about this song that we're going to hear of yours.
Okay, Home of the Brave. It's kind of well, basically I seen this. We always seem to take for granted the people that fight for us and protect our freedoms in this country, and I always kind of take that to heart. Not that I don't believe in war at all. I never have. I've always been against it. I'm a peace praiser for sure, but it's kind of a tribute to the people, the men and women that have served for us, and to not look the other way, to actually give them a handshake or give them a high five and say thanks for your service, you know?
Sure.
That's kind of where that came from, my heart. I know a lot of people that have served, and I appreciate their service, whether I believe in war or not.
Yeah, I think that's great. And before we listen to your song, one of the coolest things I saw on an airplane once was someone in business class gave up their seat to someone from the military, which I thought was very cool.
That's awesome.
Keep hearing about like rich, stuck-up people, and I get that. They paid a lot for that seat, but I just was so touched when I saw that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whenever I run into a soldier, I'll just go out of my way and I'll give them a handshake and thank them. Just because I appreciate the freedoms that we have. And without them, we probably wouldn't have it quite the same.
You are so right, my friend. All right. Thank you, Tim, so much for being on the show. Now we're going to hear your song.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
And that was Tim Soucy, Home of the Brave. What a great song.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
So our next guest is a fascinating person. This is April, the founder of Women to Women Movement. Women to Women is an app to find all things related to the brand. As a media portal for shows, news, art, and business, the W2W app follows and explores the lives of different businesswomen from all walks of life as they struggle with the day-to-day drama of their careers, relationships, and acceptance in the world. The Women to Women brand started from the show's New York's Women to Women, created by cast member April S. Watson. April filmed and branded the show with her own money rather than receive an exclusive TV deal. So welcome to the Songwriter Show, April.
Hey.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So we're cruising here. So this is very interesting. Tell me a little bit about why you started this, even though your bio kind of says it a little bit. Why did you really start this?
Well, I was tired of the way women were being presented on reality TV. So I decided to create my own reality television show that was more realistic to the relationships between women to women.
Okay, that sounds like a great mission. What have you found as you started it that was different than what you thought was going to happen? Has something surprised you in a good or bad way?
In a good way, it panned out. I was always told that it was much harder to do real reality TV, like going back to how Real World was filmed. And it worked out to my benefit. Instead of just scripting out a storyline, let the story tell itself, allow time to tell the story. And it worked out perfectly.
That sounds like a great song. Let the story tell itself.
Definitely.
Yeah. So where do you see the show growing? What direction? Like, what's next for you?
Well, I see New York's Women to Women being one of the biggest reality shows in New York, maybe in television history. We're franchising it. The brand Women to Women has been franchised to ATL Women to Women. And we're looking to go to state, looking for business women to tell their stories.
And is it primarily a TV format? Is that the main crux of what you do?
Yes, everything is television.
Okay. And do you guys ever use music or songs on the show?
Definitely. More than anything. Even now in some of the backgrounds, we like to play music in some of the scenes. So music is a big part of television.
Okay. And do you have any female songwriters on the show yet, or is that something you're looking to do?
Yeah, well, I only have my daughter. Her name is Asia Violet. She wrote the theme song, New York's Women to Women. But I'm looking for female songwriters, oh my gosh, and female producers, and any entity, anything connected to music, connected to a woman, we're looking for, definitely. Not that we don't, I'm open to dealing with men as well, but the brand was created so that it would give more opportunities to women in the music and television business.
Yeah, I understand. I think that's a very necessary thing. I mean, there's so much inequality, even within music. I think it's one of the last frontiers. We all know about the Me Too movement. We all know about what's going on in Hollywood. But I've been reading some things in the music world, and hopefully that's going to change a little bit more than it has. And they're trying to. Yeah,
I agree. So that's and the thing about this whole movement, it started way before the Me Too movement. I mean, we was aware of the Me Too movement years and years ago, but I mean, when it really took effect to the world where everybody knew what Me Too meant, we had already started this mission of trying to open up a better lane for women in television and music. My daughter has been in the music business for years since she was a child. And she's always shied away from the business because a lot of things just wasn't acceptable for women who had a little bit of respect for themselves. You know, it's like you kind of had to sell your soul and do certain things that some women just didn't want to do, wasn't willing to do. So she never got that opportunity to be on a record label, and she's been picked a few times, but she wasn't comfortable with the way things were being run. So I'm glad that with the television show, she now has her opportunity to create music. So I definitely want to open up that lane for anyone, all women in music.
What do you say to female songwriters or musicians or producers? What advice would you give them?
Follow your dreams, follow your heart, tap into your heart, and you know, do what you love to do, and it will work out to your benefit if you stay consistent and you stay true to it. Yeah.
And how do you think, I'm sure this has happened to you, and even though I'm a man, I don't know as much, and I haven't put up with as much as you guys have, but if you are at a job or at a consultation or wherever you are, and someone isn't appropriate, or some, you know, tell our listeners, what should they do if you're a young songwriter or producer and someone's trying to take advantage of you? What should they do? What resources should they find or look for?
Well, they should definitely make the person aware that they know this is not the correct way that they should be dealing with them. And they should try to make someone else that is in position in that entity aware of the situation as well.
Okay.
And the way things are today, you know, when you make someone aware, even if you was just the two of y'all in the room by yourself, but you make them aware that you know that this is not the right way that they should be conducting themselves, they'll catch on. They'll think twice now because of the way things are. So you just got to speak out. And, you know, it's a way to do everything. You know, you don't have to be disrespectful, because I think that some people just have an issue of power, and they're going to push you as far as they think they can push you. So when they realize that, you know, you're not going to accept that, it may change the whole dynamics of the business for you with them.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the key word there, power. I think a lot of times that's really what it comes down to, unfortunately. You know, it's not necessarily about the physical intimacy or it's just the power thing. And I think it's so sad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so sad. Mm-hmm. So on a brighter note, tell me what the typical day is like for you. It's great. I get a lot of women that now definitely are inspired by me and my movement. And I think that's like one of the biggest joys in the world. I mean, it's the reward of this is way bigger than the money or the fame. It's unbelievable. And I think that if everybody knew that, making that sacrifice and to step out and make a difference, they would see that it's an amazing feeling. So yeah, I agree. Okay. Just like with you, I mean, your show is making a way for people as well. Anytime you make a decision to make a way to give people an outlet to get some sort of exposure in an honest way, it's a good thing. Yeah, I agree. And, you know, getting to the Songwriter Show, I mean, there's really nothing like it. I mean, unless you're Ed Sheeran and you're on Apple Music talking about there are a lot of songwriters out there, and I think part of it is educational to teach people what everyone's process is, so they're not wondering, hey, why am I always doing lyrics first? Maybe I should do melody first. But it's also just a big support group is really what it is, too. Yeah. What was your first job?
I worked in Wendy's as a cashier.
I remember Wendy's when I was a kid. I loved Wendy's. Okay.
Yeah, that was my first job.
Yeah. All right. So I got a really important question. Who would win a fight between like Supergirl or Wonder Woman?
I think Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman? All right.
Yeah.
That's a cool movie, by the way.
Yes.
All right. Tell us a little bit about who inspires you.
Oprah.
Oprah. That's a great, the things that she's accomplished, she's inspired a lot of people.
Yes, she definitely inspires me.
Yeah. What, are you more of a hunter or a gatherer?
I'm a hunter.
Hunter, oh man. All right, I got to not piss you off. I got to be nice to you. All right. You sounded like a hunter. So when you said that, I was like, all right. That was my hunch. What were you like in high school?
I was very ambitious. I was always the one to put the group together and to create situations. So I went to Andrew Jackson High School in Queens, Palace, Queens, St. Albans.
Yeah, okay. What's the craziest thing that's happened to you in the last 3 months?
I think I had a crazy fan had locked me in a bathroom. And she wanted to tell me that she'd seen the shows, and she was talking to me as if it was my reality at that moment. It was really weird because I was trying to tell her, look, some shows are old. You know, who I was then is not who I am right now. So
yeah,
I kind of had to wait it out a bit and allow her to express herself, and it was very awkward. It was a little weird, but I guess that's what comes with that fame, you know.
Yeah, you know, I think each of us, we love our fans, and sometimes you get an inspirational, you know, tweet or private message, and it's great. It like makes our world. But sometimes some of the stalkerish type stuff kind of can be a little unsettling because, you know, in today's world, I mean, people can find out so much about you. We're all out there. We're revealing so much about ourselves and, you know, on social media, on these interviews. And I mean, my God, you know, there's always people getting shot at concerts. And I don't remember the name of the female artist, I think about a year ago that got shot. She was signing autographs for fans, and that's kind of scary.
Right. I remember that. I can't think of her name either, but yeah, that was really crazy.
She was just starting to make it. I think she had won either American Idol twice, and felt so bad for her. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What?
That's the downfall for that, but you know.
Yeah. All right. So, other than let's not do the East Coast, but if you could get rid of one state in the U.S., which one would it be and why?
The first thing that did come to my mind was L.A., but
So why do all East Coast people hate LA and the West Coast kind of thinks New York is? That's funny.
Yeah,
I'm in Chicago, so I just sit in the middle, and nobody really cares about us, so I can do or say whatever I want.
Chicago, I would love to do a Chicago women to women.
Yeah. You know, for a second, Chicago. I thought you were going to say, I would love to throw Chicago away, and I was like, I should have said you can't pick Illinois.
Not at all. Chicago is dope. They need help. You know, they
do. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a hard hitting city, but you know what? The thing about it is, a lot of powerful people come from Chicago. A lot.
Yeah, Obama. So, you know, a lot. Of Oprah.
Oprah. Yes, definitely. Kanye West. You know, so Oprah. I mean, I like Chicago. I think that Chicago, there's a lot with Chicago. You know, LA is to me is just so overly glamorized. It's so much glamour, and I just like
I think
York
the first.
New York.
Yeah, you know, the first time I went to LA, I was all like, "Wow, Hollywood!" But after you've been there like 5-6 times, and the same thing with New York. I thought when I first went there, I was like, wow, it's so busy. Everything's open at night. But you just get used to everything, you know, when you go there more than a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, this is why I did my show here. I did the New York show first because the hardest thing to do is to make it in New York. But once you make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Okay. What's your go-to comfort food?
Chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake. Okay. I don't know. Are there Portillo's on the East Coast? Have you ever heard of Portillo's? It's like a fast. They have chocolate. They have chocolate cake shakes that are to die for. That might
chocolate
be a bit
cake shake. Oh
Yeah.
my God!
If you ever come to Chicago, there's one downtown Chicago. You got to get a chocolate cake shake.
Definitely. Thank you.
No problem. All right. What's the last movie that made you cry?
Oh my gosh, Coming to America. I was watching it this weekend and I started crying at the end. And I've seen that movie a million times and I don't even know why I was crying. I think because I'm kind of like on that tip of love. Like, I want true love. I want to feel what it feels like to really be in love. And,
Yeah.
So that was the last movie that made me cry.
That's one of my all-time favorite movies. Eddie Murphy. I love all his stuff, and that was just a great story, great comedy. I mean, it was hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Last question for you. Tell us a little bit about where guests or fans can find information about you. Your website, your socials, anything you want to share with us.
Definitely. Okay, so you can go to the Women to Women, www.women2women TV app. www.women2women.tv.com, and you can get all the information about the app. You can, on that page, you can download the link for Android or the Apple Store. You could also inquire at women2women.tv.com to submit information to get into the app, as far as even being in any of the shows that we have, or even getting your show actually put on the app, or even music. If you have music, you're a producer, writer, and you have any inquiries you want as far as getting music into our content, you can inquire right there and there. We also have a Facebook page, New York, NYS, Women to Women. We also have a Facebook page of Women to Women TV app. And we're also on Instagram, same, NYS Women to Women and Women to Women TV app. So, yeah, that's it. So you can inquire.
Awesome.
Also, you can do press at Women to Women TV as well to submit news and stuff like that you want to get inside of the app.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, April, for being on the show. Now we're going to hear you said this was kind of like the jingle for your show?
Yes, this is the jingle for the show.
Okay. All right. So here we go.
New York's women. Boys the chicks, business ladies, things can get a little crazy. On New York's women to women. We fuss and fight, but we get it right. Put it in the past and move on with life. On New York's women to women. Love yourself, no one's gonna love you better. On New York's women to women. In these New York streets, it's me. New York's women. In these New York streets, it's me. New York's women. On New York's women to women. Yeah.
Well, that was a very fascinating little jingle by April for her show. And today's October 30th, which means tomorrow is Halloween. So I thought we would end the show with a song I wrote and released 2 years ago called A Halloween Song. And if you get a chance, check out my YouTube channel. It's got a really cool music video that has Michael Jackson in it. So I think you guys are going to love it. I hope you guys have a wonderful Halloween. Stay safe. Eat as much candy as you want. I'm not going to tell anybody. And not too many tricks. So have a wonderful night, and I will see you next week.
Filthy ragged zombies, eager to maul, and vampires flossing and shot in the face. Everything I see, orange and black, October 31st, a day to worry. Kids on the street, trick-or-treating in packs. Teens bewitched, telling scary stories. Halloween song, missing a thriller. This is a Halloween song. Dinner with killers. This is a Halloween song. Celebrate superstition. This is a Halloween song. Honor the tradition. Halloween song. This is a Halloween song. This is a Halloween song. And for a Halloween party, and Halloween never needs a reason to be the best party of the season. Name this night, All Hallows Eve. A frightful delight, meant to fill and excite. Dracula later, we named it Halloween. And everywhere, black cats and ghosts, Bloody Mary in my mirror, itching a fight. Michael, Jason, Freddy are your hosts, so please don't turn off the lights. Halloween song, missing the thriller. This is a Halloween song. Dinner with killers. This is a Halloween song. Celebrate superstition. This is a Halloween song. Honor the tradition. Halloween song. This is a Halloween song. This is a Halloween song. And for a Halloween party, and Halloween never needs a reason to be the best party of the season. Witches in my closet, but I got plasma guns, so they better watch it. I said they better watch it. Halloween song, listen to thriller. This is a Halloween song. Dinner with killers. This is a Halloween song. Celebrate superstition. This is a Halloween song. Honor their tradition. Halloween song. This is a Halloween song. This is a Halloween song. And for a Halloween party, and Halloween never needs a reason to be the best party of the season.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.